everyone, my name is Jean. I'd like to personally welcome you to Culture Colosseum, the one-stop shop for all your historical, science, and culture needs. Today, we're going to be starting off a new mini-series where we're just going to be talking about our personal favorite top 5 strangest animals. For today's edition, we're talking about birds. I always found birds to be one of the most majestic of all the animal kingdom, but some of them are just downright odd. But before we get into the video, just a reminder to follow us here on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Facebook at Culture Colosseum and at Creator Source Studios. That's where you're going to get a first look at all of our upcoming stuff. You'll be able to interact with us and where you'll be able to answer our question of the day at the end of the video. So, let's go in. Birds! What makes a bird a bird? I mean, obviously, we know. Beaks, feathers, wings, that's what makes a bird. But there are 2 other unique traits that birds have. One are air sacs. Now, air sacs are sort of like an extra lung. What happens is that when a bird is breathing, when they intake air, part of their breath goes into their lungs and another part goes into the air sac. That air becomes incredibly oxygen enriched, so that when they exhale, the air goes out from their lungs and the air from the air sac goes into their lungs. A little confusing, but what basically this does is allows a bird to be lighter weight so that they can maintain flight better, and it also allows for them to breathe more efficiently and effectively. One other trait that birds have that other animals really don't are hollow bones. Now, these hollow fused bones are in most birds. The only ones that they're not found in are penguins, puffins, and loons. Those do not have hollowed bones. They have solid bones because it actually helps them swim better. So when they dive into the water, it really helps them sink down and swim more efficiently. But all other birds, including flightless birds, have these hollow bones. Now that we really know what makes up a bird and what makes them different from other animals, let's go into our top 5 strangest ones. We'll start with number 5. This is the southern ground hornbill. Now, you can see here they're very unique looking. The Bicorvus ledbetteri is their scientific name. This carnivorous bird can reach up to 70 years old, which is like pretty old for an animal. They can grow 3 feet tall and can weigh up to 9 pounds. Very heavy for a bird. This actually makes them the largest hornbill on Earth. So hornbill is like a section of birds. There's all these different types, but the southern ground is what we're going to be talking about today. Also interesting about them, they can fly up to 18 miles per hour, and their wingspan is about 4 feet across. 4 feet! That's big! These birds have a wattle, sort of similar to what you see in turkeys. It's the usually brightly colored neck skin, and what they do with this is a little different. Now, during mating season, men will inflate them to show a female that he's ready to mate, but also they use it to make sounds. And in the wild, for these types of birds, they usually live in the savanna, the grasslands, the woodlands of Africa, usually the southern part of Africa. They make a sound that sounds almost identical to a lion's roar. So, when you're out in the wild, and you hear this sound, you might be like, holy crap, a lion's here! And instead it's just this weird looking bird. Now, they're not very harmful to humans, but they do have a diet that consists of bugs, toads, snakes, lizards, baby tortoises, basically anything small that they can grab onto. Also weird about them, another reason I put them at number 5 out of all the birds in the world, is that sometimes they eat baby monkeys. And that is just shocking to me. Baby monkeys are kind of cute. Please don't eat them. Usually these types of creatures live in groups of 2 to 9 members. And another interesting fact about these hornbill is that only the male and female that are dominant in the group can breed. Every other one is not allowed. They kind of just guard the 2 dominant members and their offsprings. Now let's talk about conservation. The southern ground hornbill is vulnerable to extinction. Now this is due to a lot of factors, but primarily pollution, agricultural expansion, and climate change are the main sources. A lot of the southern ground hornbill's territory is being hit with these weird weather patterns due to climate change, and it's just messing up their ecosystem. But also human pollution is a big issue. Stuff's getting caught in their throat, their habitat's being destroyed. It's really just tragic. So let's try and save these crazy, beautiful creatures. All right, number 4 on the list. What do we have for you? The kakapo, the Strigops hoblotilis. I'm probably saying that wrong for you science people. I'm sorry. I don't fully know them. But the kakapo is what I'm going to refer to them as. This New Zealand bird is entirely flightless. They will often climb trees only to glide down while uselessly flapping their little wings. But they sort of just glide. They can't actually fly. Now these are herbivores, which means they really only eat like fruits, nuts, buds, seeds, things like that they can find. Even though there's not a full estimate about how long they can live, we know it's over 50 years, and it could be up to 90 years that these creatures live in the wild. Now, these creatures are entirely nocturnal. They live in solitary, and they prefer to be away even from their own species. But they're incredibly loud, and they make a variety of different calls and screams in the wild, so it could be really startling to people. They said that this bird is like incredibly startling to hear in the wild because all of a sudden it will just be like a scream, and it's just a bird. Now, they're the only parrot species to lick breed, L-E-K. What this means is that the males put on a display, dance around, breed, and then they leave, and the female bird will go off, have the babies, raise them, and then that's it. That's all the interaction that they have. They don't live together, they don't mate for life, and they're the only parrot species to do this. So there's a variety of different parrot species. So many, and this is the only one that does that. Odd. In the mid-1990s, their population was at 50 in the whole world. Only 50 of these creatures lived. Now, so many conservation efforts have been going on since then. So, as of June 2020, the total known was about 210. Still not a lot, but that's why we have to work on protecting these creatures, because species all over the world have these insanely interesting capabilities, and we're only just breaking the surface of what this bird does in the wild. We can learn more. That's why we have to keep them around. Number 3, the shoebill. Fun name, but also its scientific name may sound a little prehistoric to you. The Balenciareps rex. T-Rex, anyone? B-Rex. Sorry, that was lame. They can grow up to 4.5 feet, and males can reach a total of 12 pounds. They have an 8-foot wingspan. Now, like the kakapo, they prefer to live in solitude, and when paired, they'll be bonded for life, but they don't want to interact with each other much. So, like, they'll go to eat, and they'll eat on opposite ends. They'll go to drink water, and they'll, like, be several feet away from each other just drinking water. So, like, I love you, but I love you over there. So it's a little funny that they prefer their solitude, but then they pair with each other. Now, they live in swamps and wetlands in Central and East Africa, so that's, if you're interested in finding them, that's where they'll be. Their beak is over 7 inches long. Over 7 inches. And what they use it for, there's a few different capabilities, but usually they'll use it to contain fish or other prey. They'll scoop it up and hold it in there. They also eat lizards, snakes, frogs, baby turtles, and they eat crocodiles. Need I say more? But they can also use it to store water for them to douse their eggs and young with, because they like to be wet and cool. And they can also make a variety of different tones by clapping their bill. So this kind of ends up sounding like a machine gun. Again, very startling for somebody who's out in the wilds. But they basically clap it and it just makes this crazy machine gun-like sound. Their wings, as we said, 8 feet, are so powerful that if they were standing still, they could basically lift up vertically off the ground. Just lift with a few flaps of their wings. That's how strong these birds are. That's why they're so bizarre. I'm just like, vertically? Not like, wow. Just straight up. Another interesting fact is that they're diurnal, which means that they only hunt at night if the moon is very bright. That rhymed. I'm sorry. Their bills are so powerful. If you look at the image, they have little hooks on the end of them, like sharp blades that can decapitate fish and other small creatures. And then they fly away. It's like lightning fast. These birds are classified as vulnerable to extinction, just like the first bird. That means there's an estimated 3,300 to 5,300 in the wild, in the whole world. And this is due to human factors. So hunting, habitat loss, energy production, pollution, mining, everything like that. It's basically the destruction of their habitat and hunting. See these little dinosaurs, these little B-Rexes. Number 2, the kea. Nestor notabilis. This unusual parrot, second parrot on the list, is from New Zealand. Now these birds reside in the mountains rather than the forest, and were originally introduced to humans by swooping down and attacking their sheep. What an introduction. Hi, nice to meet you. Welcome to the island. I'm going to eat your sheep. That has to do with a bit of how they're treated, but we'll get into that. These kea are very attracted to human. They're incredibly curious birds. So I was almost tied with putting them in number 1 for the following reasons. This is why they're on the list, okay? They're so insanely curious that their intelligence is above and beyond what humans even imagine for the species. They're also monogamous, so they form lifelong, long-term pair bonds with another of their species. And they're highly adaptive. So they have learned to benefit from human interaction. So from hunting, they've learned to go hunted animals, deer that have been shot and died, they can feed off them and the carcasses. They've also learned to dig for grubs. They've learned to sort of steal from people and use things that they've found for their own benefit. They also breed in the winter, which is unique for a parrot species, and they nest in the ground, and they prefer elevated terrain, which is why they live in the mountains. Odd bird. But the most fascinating thing about the kea is their intelligence. They have a basic understanding of tools, simple tools. They can use rocks to smash things open. They have been seen in the wild using tools for their own benefits. They also have shown an understanding of something that only humans and apes have shown thus far. Understanding probability. So they are able to estimate what the probability of them catching a prey is, what the probability of them escaping is, so it seems. They've also shown the ability to take pieces of information that they've gathered on something and make a single judgment. Now, a fun little fact about them is that they're troublemakers. Their curious nature leads them to interact with new things that are placed in their environments. So they've been known to untie people's shoes and steal traffic cones and knock things over, and which is partially why people kind of hunt them, even though it's illegal now. When people first came to the island, they were hunted because they were harassing sheep, and people thought they were in danger, even though that's not very common for them to do anymore. Past overhunting of these creatures caused them to be severely endangered. So this bird species is incredibly intelligent. We have to protect it. And I know there's a lot of efforts going on right now, but again, it just goes to show you how many animal species are endangered or vulnerable to being endangered. Something to consider. Finally, the last bird on this list, number 1, is the hoatzin. The Opisthokomos hoatzin. Probably again saying that wrong. Sorry, science. This neotropical bird lives in the rivers and still lakes of the Amazon basin. They have been called by 2 names. Both are going to be odd, and that's why they're number 1 on this list. Flying cows and the stink bird. Why not? So we'll start with the flying cows because that really leads into why they're called stink birds. The hoatzin are ruminators, just like cows. It's a weird thing for birds to have. This means that they have a special process to help them digest food using bacterial fermentation. Confusing, I know, it's weird. They have an enlarged esophagus and crop, and are the only birds in the world to use this process of digestion. Now they're herbivores, so what they do is they eat plants, ferment it, it goes through, it breaks down into enzymes, and what that does is causes them to be called the stink bird because this process of rumination makes their breath release foul-smelling bacterial vapors. And when they exhale, the smell comes out, and it makes them smell very stinky and disgusting and gross. Not only that, but it makes them taste terrible as well. Another reason that they're on this list, so there was those two, which is just so bizarre for birds. Number 3 is that their babies have claws on their wings. So baby hoatzin have 2 claws on each of their wings, and what they do is when they're threatened, they dive into the water, because their nest is always above water. They dive into the water. They're incredibly powerful swimmers. These birds are insanely good swimmers. They swim, jump up, grab onto a tree, and then climb up it with their claws. What the heck? It helps them avoid predators, and it's one of those traits that scientists just thought maybe came from ancestors, but it actually is incredibly applicable to their life today, so it's probably from evolution. Now, the hoatzin grow to be about the size of chickens when fully grown, and they are one of the longest lineages of birds. They're from like this long lineage of ancient birds. So evolutionarily, they're the only kind of related to themselves, but it comes from this long ancient line, which is kind of why they have these dinosaur-like claws. They don't fly very often because honestly, the hoatzin are terrible flyers, but that's just because they're built for digestion. And they are the only bird on this list who is not vulnerable to endangerment or endangered. And this is probably due to the fact that they are incredibly highly adaptive birds. Their skill set can allow them to survive pretty much anywhere. But also, because they taste terrible, so nobody wants to hunt them. They're gross. Ew. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, because I really enjoyed doing the research for this. I really enjoy talking about animals and getting the facts and helping endangered species. Conservation is so important, guys. So don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed, and comment down below what type of species you'd like me to talk about next. Insects, dogs, big cats, whatever you want, I'll discuss. Subscribe for more content like this. I'm Jean, and once again, welcome to Culture Colosseum. For the question of the day today, what evolutionary trait do you think it would be cool for humans to have? Comment down below or on our Instagram page. Bye, Culture Crew.